Hi everyone, my name's Pieta Valentine. I've written 2 books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit. Today's session is on getting to know the staff in a dementia unit. This is actually a really big subject for many reasons, which I'll go into detail here. What can often happen is that if a relative bringing in one of their family members into the dementia unit has not worked in a medical facility before, it can be quite overwhelming. The various staff, their various roles, who's doing what their responsibilities are, who should I talk to, where can I get the notes from, where's the doctor, how can I get in touch with him? There's so many aspects to go through. So I'll just go through these one by one. Now, as in any institution, which a dementia facility is, there is very much the hierarchy of roles. You've got the doctor at the top, then you've got the clinical manager, then you've got the nurse, the charge nurse, then you've got the carers, and the cleaners, the laundry girls, and of course all the maintenance staff. So, and there's various other people coming and going, and of course all the relatives visiting, So, the person might need blood tests, there's the ambulance may come with all the ambulance men and their trolleys and various things. So it takes a lot actually to get to know the various staff. And I'll tell you the reason why it can be difficult, because in New Zealand anyway, a lot of the staff in dementia facilities are from Southeast Asia, South Asia, so say from the Philippines and India. So these girls all have the same black straight hair, often in a ponytail, and often of a similar height. And compared to, say, for example, Kiwi girls or Kiwi women, New Zealand women, we all vary in height pretty much from 5 foot to 6 foot, a lot of us. Different coloured hair, different styles, different complexion. So it is easier because of the build often to work out who the person is. But if the person or the staff have a similar frame, it's difficult to work out, especially when everyone's wearing a similar looking uniform and they may have an accent which is difficult to understand, they may have a name that's difficult to pronounce, etc. So on it goes. So because of all these reasons, really time and effort needs to be taken to get to know the staff and their names and their roles. So the best thing to do is to come into the unit, take your time, sit down, and again, that great technique of observation. Who is the clinical manager who is the charge nurse today? Who's the main carer, etc. Now, it's probably best to just, in your own learning style, maybe picking up one name each time you come in and noting it down either in a notebook or on your iPhone. Because there's lots of other details actually too that you need to pick up on in a dementia unit, names being just one of them. So if you have a notebook of all these things and write it down, you're not sort of racking you're not having to stress out as to what the names are. And then if you forget them, then you're sort of stuck. Okay, so in terms of roles, you'll have the village manager. She's the one that often will take the relatives around the unit when they're deciding on which facility to go to. And you may not see the village manager after that. So that could well be just a one-off. But the clinical manager is the manager at the unit in charge of all the overall workings at the unit. So she generally works from Monday to Friday, regular hours, say 8 to 5 or 8 to 4. And so it's important to get to know her in terms of going to her for questions about medication, is mum sleeping, any issues you have, etc. The clinical manager is the one to go to. Now, if the clinical manager is not there, like in the weekends, or if she's unwell or on holiday, Usually there's a replacement, but in the weekends there won't be a clinical manager often, just the charge nurse. So then you need to go to her about issues. If you need to ask something regarding your mother or relative in the unit. Now, the nurse, the charge nurse, they are very, I mean, everyone's busy in a dementia unit in their own way, really, everyone's busy. But the charge nurse, they've got medication rounds, so they happen 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch and evening meal. So the day shift charge nurse does 2 rounds, and then the afternoon charge nurse 1 round. Those medication rounds take at least an hour, so that's busy. The dressings take a really long time to do a dressing. You wouldn't believe it unless you witnessed it. You know, the amount of care that needs to be taken with doing dressings on calves, and so they don't get infected or reinfected. Yeah, that can take like a good half hour just to do 1 dressing on 1 leg, you know, and you can't be answering questions to a relative when you're bending down on your knees doing a dressing. If a resident has a fall or there's an emergency, which there often is, all these times in the day, of course, the nurse is not available. So you just need to find a time when you can speak to her when she's free. So it's good to know the name of the clinical manager and the name of the charge nurse. So for example, if you go to the front desk, but you're still not sure of who's who, and you say, look, I'm Anne and my mother is named Beverly, so I'm the daughter of Beverly. Can you please ask the charge nurse or the clinical manager, can you please say that I'd like to speak to one of them? If you've given the name of your mother and yourself, then the carer or whoever it is that you've been speaking to can go off to the charge nurse or the clinical manager and say, look, the daughter of Beverly is at the front desk and she'd like to ask a question. That's so much easier than saying, than the carer running off and saying, oh, there's a relative at the front desk who wants to ask about her mother. Like, right, that could be any mother, it could be any relative, and anyway, the nurse has got like 30 other things on her plate, so it can easily get lost. Whereas if you say your name and maybe have it written on a piece of paper, put that on the front desk that you'd like to speak to the charge nurse, everything is in place. So that's one aspect. It's also, of course, the doctor's easily recognisable, male or female. Often they have a white coat or a stethoscope or an air of authority in the place, so you'll know the doctor, chances are. It's also important to get to know the ever-present laundry staff and cleaning staff are very important in a unit, because the laundry staff know everything about your mother's wardrobe. And if you're not sure where, the trousers are or the jacket is or the shirt, what's happened to this or that, if you go to the laundry girls, they're the ones that can fill you in on how things are going in terms of your mother's wardrobe. It's very easy for things to get lost or, overwrung in the dryer, over-dried, I should say, in the dryer. Things can come back a bit matted if woolens go through the laundry. So it's very important to make sure that all the woolens you take home and wash that by hand, because otherwise if it goes to the general laundry, it can come back as a bit of a mess. And the cleaners are important to know, because they are the girls that will pick up on if there's lost hearing aids or glasses. They'll often find them, those important, ever important, necessary accessories. They can find them and bring them back to you. So learn their names as well. There's a lot to learn. There's so much to learn in a dementia unit, and so many people coming and going all day. Right, so my time's nearing the end. So I'm putting these videos on Facebook Business and Instagram and Zoom as well even. So if your friends, family are on these sites, please refer these videos to them if they're needing that help with looking after people with dementia. Thank you.